You so much for that warm intro. So I'm Alexa. I think we already got that point clear. And today I'm going to be representing Dalhousie in my capacity as sustainability manager. And I'll speak about how we're bringing sustainability to life locally at Dal and how you can apply some of the same programs and approaches wherever you are. Before we begin and I really get into the content, I do believe it's important to recognize that Dalhousie's Halifax and Truro campuses are located in Sibonacatuck, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. It's also important to recognize that African Nova Scotians are a distinct group of people whose histories, legacies, and contributions have enriched Dalhousie and Mi'kmaqi for over 400 years. So I'll dive into who the Office of Sustainability is and what we do. I'll talk about some recent projects and successes. Then I'll move on to some of our student and staff engagement programs, our future direction, some of the big things coming up, and then some opportunities. So a bit about me, like previously mentioned, I am a project manager and I'm ultimately driven by curiosity and compassion with the goal of doing good for our planet and its inhabitants. So I do have 7+ years of project management experience. I'm a double DAL alumni. I did my Bachelor's of Science in Marine Biology and Sustainability, as well as my Master's in Marine Management at DAL. I have a PMP. I'm a lead green associate. And aside from that, I do also have a consulting company. I'm an advisor to many students and early career professionals. I'm also a passionate pond plant parent, a yogi, and a gardener. And I think it's important for folks to recognize all those bits and pieces that make you who you are and kind of underscores who you are in your professional capacity as well, because all those bits and pieces do add value. So some context about Dalhousie. We have 100+ buildings slash houses on 32 acres of downtown Halifax campus. So we have 3 campuses in downtown Halifax. And then on our Truro campus, our agricultural campus, we have 50+ buildings. So altogether, this includes close to 6 million gross square feet of building space. And we have a campus population of almost 30,000 people, including staff and faculty, which is enough to make up a mini city. And so, like I said, we do have those 4 campuses in Nova Scotia, and we do also have a medical campus in New Brunswick. On our Halifax campus and our AC campus, our agricultural campus, they each have their own district heating systems. They're heated in different ways. And most importantly, the university does have a commitment to sustainability. So because you're already involved in Pegasus Institute, I'm sure many of you understand and know what sustainability is. There's so many definitions and principles that underscore what sustainability is. I'm not going to get into all of them into too much depth, but one thing I think is important to put into perspective is how ultimately sustainability considers the environment, society, and the economy. And typically, just based on the bottom line, the economy does tend to be the center of most decisions that we make, with the environment as that kind of broader picture boundary. But when we're thinking about sustainable development, you need to weight all of them equally, because we're not going to achieve sustainable development if we aren't taking that approach, which is illustrated in the figure on the right. So the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, UN SDGs, they're a global framework of 17 interconnected goals to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure peace and prosperity for all by 2030. And at DAL, we hosted our first ever Sustainable Development Goals Expo just last month, where we had 68 research posters from 10 disciplines at all levels of study, staff, students, faculties, as well as departmental initiatives. We also had 34 booths, both internal and external to Dalhousie. This include nonprofits, industry groups, academic departments, startups, as well as societies. And this event actually brought in over 250 participants, not including those involved, whether through a research poster or the booths. We do also have other research projects tied to each goal. So our university does have a commitment to sustainability, not just through our ability to bring people together, but in terms of the breadth and depth of research that we do across all sustainable development goals. I'm just keeping my eye on the chat here. If you do have any questions, you can put them in the chat and I'll come to them at the end, so I don't have to manage too many pop-up windows here. So Dalhousie's Office of Sustainability, who are we? We're an administrative department. So we report to the Vice President of Finance and Administration. We are responsible for operationalizing sustainability at Dal. So we bring it to life. So while we're separate from facilities management, we work very, very close with them and other departments like faculties, student groups, community groups, and governmental groups. How we accomplish things is through projects, planning, and programs. You can see a picture of our team on the left. Like I mentioned, we do engage with everyone from the campus, and we do actually have students as part of our staff as well. Aside from our three full-time, myself, our energy manager, and our executive director, our whole team is comprised of students. And everything that we do is rooted in research, engagement, and education. So going back to the Dalhousie campus, we do have 13 faculties and more than 3,600 courses across 180 areas of study. And most of them touch on sustainability learning outcomes in some of their courses. But in addition to the Office of Sustainability, Dalhousie has a dedicated College of Sustainability. We also have an Office of Sustainability within our student union. We're the largest university in Atlantic Canada, which means that we do have an opportunity to help lead the way and serve as a positive example for others. And I do have some other information about the Sustainability Leadership Certificate and some other courses and programs that might be of interest for those who are considering going to DAL or are at DAL and want to explore other opportunities while you're already here. So our Office of Sustainability in the center of this figure here, we liaise and work really closely with the college. They're responsible for the teaching and the pedagogy and the sustainability courses, but we are the doers. So when it comes to bringing a project to life physically on campus, that will come to us. And again, we work with the Student Union Sustainability Office, who focus more on policy within the student union itself. So we all work together to ultimately serve the community, staff, students, and faculty. And we also all come together on the President's Advisory Council on Sustainability, where we talk about different challenges, opportunities, where we can collaborate. And once a year, we have the opportunity to present to the university's president. We're very fortunate at Dalhousie to have an overarching sustainability policy and a very rigorous sustainability operational plan. I did include a QR code on this slide if you wanted to find where they are on our website. They are available on dal.ca/sustainability under plans and policies, but that QR code will take you right there. The real bread and butter that is important to know is that we have an overarching sustainability plan that guides the work that we do, and it focuses on several core areas, including energy and green buildings, the natural environment, transportation demand management, sustainable procurement and waste management, sustainable and healthy foods, and all of those feed into our work on climate change. So we do have a separate plan with further details and sub goals for each of those thematic areas, but it is all pulled together in our operational plan. We do also report on our progress every year in our annual report, which is also available through that QR code on our webpage. So the Office of Sustainability was enacted in 2008. And since then, we've invested over $103 million in sustainability projects, both through DAO funding as well as partners, grants, and other contributions. Most of this has been allocated to buildings. Building retrofits, making them more energy efficient is an incredibly expensive process, but we do see huge gains when we make those investments. But funds have also gone towards natural environment improvement, creating new habitat, as well as transportation projects. So going back to that building element, there's been over 60 plus building projects that are moving beyond business as usual. So that means really taking it to that next step. So things have included upgrading our district energy system, fully retrofitting buildings to make sure that they're not just meeting, but beating standards, improving the envelope around the buildings, their insulation, improving the efficiency of certain systems within the buildings, as well as equipment and products. Product changing, physically changing to more renewable, less carbon intensive products and fuels. We've also now installed smart metering in all of our buildings, and we do have a goal of a 20% reduction in our energy usage from our baseline in 2010, which is what I'll get into a bit now. So in terms of our greenhouse gas emissions at Dalhousie, we have seen a 46% reduction in the 22-24 fiscal year against our baseline. So we've already passed our first emissions target of 30% by 2050. And when I'm talking about emissions reductions, we're only including Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions in that baseline reduction. So Scope 1 are direct emissions that are generated on campus from our steam plants or our district energy and from vehicles, our fleet, our own fleet for our grounds team. So the vehicles that actually Dalhousie owns. And Scope 2 are indirect emissions from purchased electricity. So from the energy that we can't create on campus, that's connected to Nova Scotia Power, the provincial grid, that's considered Scope 2, which we include in our reductions. Scope 3 are emissions as a result of operations. So for example, staff and students traveling to and from campus, that's Scope 3 emissions and aren't included in our reduction against the baseline. So all to say, this graph is showing over time, we've seen a relative decrease, especially in our Scope 2 emissions, as well as our Scope 1 and Scope 3 as well. In terms of our waste at Dalhousie, we are looking at one of our key performance indicators for this area is diversion rate from the landfill. So of all of the not just waste, but of all of the post-consumer items that are generated on campus, how much is not going to the landfill and is now going to different streams of recycling. So our goal is 75% from our baseline by 2030. And as of last fiscal year, the 23-24 fiscal year, we were at 70%. So this does also include around 10% coming from our agricultural campus, where the district energy system there actually uses biomass cogeneration. So we purchase wood chip residue from local foresters, and we actually burn that to create energy. And the residual ash from the district energy system is then sold as an agricultural grade fertilizer. So we're able to reuse that byproduct as well, which makes up 10% of our diversion. Another way that we're measuring our progress with waste is looking at waste consumption or generation per person. So our baseline was 85 kilograms per person in 2013 in Halifax. And as of last fiscal year, we were at 46 kilograms, which is just under the weight of a giant North Pacific octopus. So if you're trying to conceptualize how much, what that looks like in space and time. Just picture a giant octopus, which is still a lot of waste generated per person. We definitely still have some progress to make there. So we do report on all of our key performance indicators, not just greenhouse gas emissions and waste. It is all in our annual report, like I mentioned earlier, but we do also participate in some other reporting programs. The Association for Advancing Sustainability in Higher Education, ASHE, they administer STARS, Sustainability Tracking and Reporting. It is the leading international sustainability rating system for universities and colleges. And I'm really pleased to share that we just received our renewed gold rating until March of 2028. And so we do this every 3 years, and STARS is rigorous because of its breadth and depth. It has 67 credits that look at curriculum, operations, research, engagement, purchasing, HR practices. It's very, very in-depth. And what's awesome about the STARS website is that you can look at the reports for any participating institution, not just their current ones, but their past ones as well. So all of this information is available online. We do also participate in Times Higher Education reporting. They take more of an SDG impact ranking focus, so looking more at the Sustainable Development Goals and how we're achieving those. And then we also have, of course, our university strategic plans and our sustainability plans. So some big impact projects that are underway. We're currently doing a deep energy retrofit on our Killam library. This is one of our initial buildings at Dalhousie that has, they call it the brutalist architecture style. It's a very large concrete building. And so this full retrofit is upgrading the lighting, it's improving ventilation systems, it's actually connecting the energy system to our district energy steam to hot water generator on our campus. We're improving building controls, automating some of them to save even more money and energy. Improving water efficiency by installing, they're called dual flush handles. So maybe you've seen them before on the toilets, push up for liquids, down for solids. Strategically assessing the windows, improving air gap sealing around them, switching some of them. And actually, if you're familiar with Dalhousie, when you enter the building, it has a beautiful large atrium that goes all the way up to the sky, and all the windows on the inside were cleaned for the first time ever, which improves the ability for natural light to permeate through. This is a huge, deep energy retrofit that we do expect to see some big gains from in terms of energy efficiency and water efficiency. Another big impact project underway is the geothermal field expansion on our Sexton campus, our engineering campus downtown on the IDEA building. So this geothermal field was originally built for extra capacity, but now it's being connected to even more buildings to supply heating and cooling. So geothermal field, my background's not in energy management. I kind of alluded to this earlier. We do have an energy manager. She looks after the energy and green building projects. I look at pretty much everything else. But I will share my slide deck, and there is a video that explains how the geothermal field works. But essentially, there are really deep holes in the ground that are pulling in heat from the environment, and they're able to store it longer term. I think that explains it in a nutshell, but the video does provide some more context, and you can kind of see in the background what it looks like. And if you didn't know it was there, you wouldn't. It's actually a soccer field, and folks are always using that space, and underneath we're storing energy, which is pretty cool. We're really big on student engagement. Every year, I think this number is actually on the lower end of the spectrum because we're well over 100 students per year that work with us on different projects, whether that's through independent research, we'll host interns, internships, classwork. We engage with a few different core courses where groups of students will kind of either pitch their ideas or we'll pitch ideas to them. We'll have an opportunity to work together. We also work with volunteers and staff. But one thing that's fantastic about working with students is they are boots on the ground. They see things that we're not going to see. And I think as you kind of progress in your career, maybe you become a little bit more closed-minded to what's possible. And when you're learning, you have so many ideas that we're able to kind of tap into ideas that we wouldn't be able to have otherwise. And the quality of the research of students is fantastic. I mean, we're at one of the U15 institutions in Canada, a research institute. So a lot of the research that ends up being done by the students does get passed on to us, and we're then able to use that in our projects, programming, planning. We also have some students who sit on our President's Advisory Council on sustainability because we want to make sure that what we're doing is not just, in theory sounding good, but that is also going to serve the students. So we have several kind of programs when it comes to engagement. We have this Rethink brand to kind of give more direction rather than it just being the Office of Sustainability. So we kind of use these interchangeably in some senses, but we're big on experiential learning. Like I mentioned, we engage with a few different courses. We host interns. If someone wants to do an independent research project, we're more than happy to host. We also have a peer educator program where we have students who are on our staff that do different events and educational activities, a lot of social media that tends to be really successful. We work on building community. We work with residents on a few different initiatives, which we'll talk about later. We collaborate with the city as well as our bike center to host bike week events. We have waste reduction challenges where we're trying to engage other faculties in buildings. So we're really trying to build this culture of sustainability here at Dal, and it not just being, focused on retrofitting buildings, but also kind of giving folks the power to understand that the choices that you make in your everyday do add up, not just at Dalhousie, but in your homes as well. So that ties into our education and outreach. We're refining our employee sustainability leadership program. We give guest lectures quite frequently. We'll host lunch and learns. We deliver trainings for residents, teams for food service. We'll participate in community events, and we really, really do focus on social media. It's a great way of not just engaging with students, but staff as well. So I want to talk a little bit about some programs with impact because I think there might be some opportunity for folks to kind of gain some inspiration from some of the things that we're doing. So Smart Trip, that's the first program I'll talk about. This is a collaboration with the City of Halifax. Just like students at Dalhousie get we call it a U Pass, a university bus pass. We offer an employee bus pass called the X Pass. So it is a discounted rate for staff if you're full-time. We also have the guaranteed ride home program if you're not able to use public transit because for some reason you have to stay later at work. We're able to give you a voucher for a taxi so you can get home safe. We also have secure parking access rooms, which we manage. They're in several core buildings. Folks who bike year round or only bike part of the year that want to store their bikes indoors when they're on campus, we have space for that. And we also offer resources around planning trips using public transportation or active transportation. Our Sustainable Labs program. We've had a program in place for several years now, but we're actually relaunching next month with a more interactive scorecard, really trying to build the culture of sustainability in labs by engaging the lab members and encouraging them to take on leadership with sustainability rather than it just being, the lab managers or PIs. So really trying to get folks involved at different levels under our Sustainable Labs program. We have 1,350 labs at Dow, and even though they only occupy 10% of our total area, labs consume 50% of our energy. So we have a huge opportunity with our Sustainable Labs program to really be working with folks to reduce energy use as well. Campus engagement, like I mentioned earlier, we do lots of training sessions, workshops, events. Every year we run Eco-Olympics. It's a residence to residence competition to reduce their water usage and their energy usage. This year we're hoping to incorporate waste as well. And we also have Sustainability Month. So Sustainability Month happens every October. And what we did this year is every week followed a different theme. So transportation, food, waste, energy, and climate change. And so we hosted a variety of different events like biking workshops. We hosted a panel discussion on food sustainability. We hosted a training session on our sustainable events program, which I'll talk about shortly. We worked with food services to increase the BYOM Bring Your Own Mug discount for Sustainability Month. We offered electric bike ride testing, working with a local nonprofit, and we did some engagement for our Sustainable Labs program. And so we've had relatively good success with Sustainability Month. It seems to be getting people engaged with sustainability, getting them to think about different topics or applications of sustainability in ways they haven't before. Another key activity that we've seen great success with is our waste sorting game. I call it What Goes Where, but essentially what we've done is we've collected different types of items that are commonly generated if you're, buying food on campus or purchasing things at a grocery store. We've also included some trickier items that we've noticed frequently don't end up in the right place because contamination is a huge problem. I mean, we have, like I said, 30,000 people working at Dalhousie, many of which aren't from Halifax. So even if you're coming from a different municipality, waste sorting standards change, but especially if you're coming from a different province or a different country, it can be really confusing. So we've had really good success with this waste sorting game where folks can actually pick up the items, feel them, and then try to place them in the right category. Even if they don't get through all of them, it's an opportunity to chat through some of those trickier items like coffee cups. So we've had really good success doing this during welcome weeks, orientation, in some high traffic areas. So I definitely would recommend some type of, interactive waste sorting activity because it seemed to be really popular. Our sustainable event certification. So this certification program is specific to Dalhousie, but the resources and information that's provided through this program could be applied anywhere. So this is just a sample of what the certificate looks like in some senses. So the way the program works is it goes over different categories behind event planning. This includes logistics, planning, communications, exhibitor involvement, procurement, catering, waste management, transportation, social good. So we have basically like an event planning checklist. And as you're planning the event, you kind of work through the criteria. When you're ready, you can submit your application. It's self-assessed with all those criteria. We look at the results. We make sure that things are in alignment. Sometimes we'll meet with the participants, being the event host. And then they receive a score at the end. And to date, we've had almost 40 events go through this program, which we relaunched in 2023 after COVID. And we found that there's a really good like pay it forward model where when event hosts make a conscious effort to not just include sustainability within the event planning, then also communicate it back to the participants, there seems to be more uptake in, okay, and I understand why the cookies that we loved aren't served anymore because they come in single servings. Why are we lighter on decorations this year? Why aren't there any balloons? Oh, that's because we're making an effort to only use decorations that we can reuse. So there's been a lot of good dialogue between the event hosts and the participants, and we've seen that come back in the feedback that we've received. So in terms of where we're headed, I'm just going to speak to a few different areas that I think would be relevant here. One of them being food and procurement. In 2024, I believe, or 2023 actually, we received Fair Trade Campus designation, which essentially means that wherever we can serve coffee, tea, and chocolate, so that includes all dining halls, non-franchised food establishments, and our vending machines, we offer fair trade products. So fair trade ensures not just environmental sustainability, but social and economic sustainability throughout the supply chain, which means that farmers that are growing the coffee beans and cocoa are being paid a living wage. We're also working on improving our metrics, so how much waste we're generating, pre and post consumer. We're making great strides in being able to track that resolution of information. We work really closely with food services to reduce plastic in food offerings and to reduce waste in terms of packaging just in general. And of course, more plant-forward offerings. In the dining halls, there's actually already a great deal of plant-forward offerings. Our biggest challenge is getting students to try them. So we're working on a food impact network project with researchers and institutions from across Canada to try to identify some best practices and how we can get people to start trying more plant-forward options. In terms of engagement, we're going to continue to engage the campus in hands-on action, whether that's through planting events or other workshops. We're going to continue to provide student jobs, research opportunities, and action opportunities. We really do try to provide some value to students, and whether that's professional development through an actual job or even just volunteering. Continuing to amplify our Sustainable Labs program, we hope to engage at least 10% of labs at Dalhousie through our program by the end of this year. Revitalizing our employee leadership program. We had one in the past, but COVID kind of changed our conceptualization of it. So we're looking forward to getting something mobilized there. We're working with a local provider for an e-mobility collaboration. So the City of Halifax has identified a provider for e-bikes and e-scooter rentals that you can use across the HRM, and we're going to have some designated locations that they can be parked at the university, and discounted rates for our community as well. And of course, the free store. This is something we piloted last year that was a huge success, which maybe you'll find interesting. So what we did, we collected items that were left behind when students moved out of residence. And items get left behind for a variety of reasons. I mean, if you've come from anywhere that you didn't take ground transportation, you might not be able to bring all those items back with you. So things get left behind because of that, or simply because you don't need it. So last year we ended up sorting through several tons of goods, but we saved 4 tons of it and we redistributed it through the free store. So we did this over 2 days. Originally, we planned for 8, but we had 7 visitors in 2 days, and we I don't want to say sold out because we weren't. It was free. But stock went very fast, and we actually did some market analysis. We had a student who looked at the average used value of the items and counted the number of items, and we estimated that we redistributed $10,000 worth of used goods. So most of this was school, office supplies, kitchenware, clothing, and bedding. We did also have some mini fridges, small furniture, and monitors, which there was high demand for. So we did make this available to primarily students, but staff were also welcome should they need items. So we piloted last year as a pop-up, and we're hoping to have this on a permanent basis. But of course, the challenge is going to be, so we do get most of the items when students move out. So if we do this year round, we'll have to do some kind of ongoing donation. But all to say, this program was a huge success. And with the ever rising prices of food and other commodities, if we can create a circular economy or help support a circular economy here at Dal. It's a win-win for everyone. We're keeping items out of the landfill and we're getting them reused, and folks don't need to pay for it, which is great. So if you are interested in learning more about Dalhousie or wanting to come to Dalhousie, you can explore events and information sessions, not just hosted by the office, but just Dal in general. We have some information on the slide, which I'll share afterwards. For international students, we have a fantastic international center, a fantastic team over there. They'd be happy to answer any of your questions. So there's information if you're looking for more. And of course, the College of Sustainability. If you're interested in studying sustainability at Dal, there's some additional information. So before I open up the floor for questions, I just want to end on a positive note that you can take inspiration from Dal and beyond. You can take inspiration from anywhere. Every program, project, and personal decision makes an impact. I know it's easy to think that it doesn't, but it really does. And you never know who you can inspire, or if you'll plant a seed and someone will then go on and move that forward. You can apply similar approaches elsewhere, whether it's from our engagement, or you want to do a mini free store, or applying the sustainable events checklist to events. We really do encourage people to take inspiration from that wherever you may be. So with that, thank you so much for your attention. I am happy to answer any questions. I did put a QR code to our Instagram page. I think we post pretty good resources and educational content. Also information about our events if you are local. So I do encourage you to follow us as well.